And this is definitely a map, I think, in my opinion anyway, that will favor Denial a little bit more. I think that this just plays into their hand a little bit harder than I would have anticipated any other map. Just because they have been running that D.Va, that Winston, and that Fire combo most of the tournament, and if there was ever a map for that to work, it's definitely this one. So while I do think Immortals is the favorite, I do think if there was going to be a close match or a Denial win in this series, it would definitely probably come on this map.
Well, just to an obvious point that you can sort of infer from what we've been saying here is that if you think about maps that Immortals has played on a lot recently, it doesn't include Numbani because it wasn't played in the Carbon series at all. So for Denial, if they've had more time to grind this out, perhaps it would be more of a weak spot for Immortals. But we'll just have to see what Immortals shows us as they prep here on their offense. But Hex, forget about the offense for a moment. What are we seeing on this defense coming out here from Denial?
Well, defense actually running something pretty standard. I mean, this is the standard Denial defense anyway, where they've been trying to run this combo Fair Mercy in the sky. Pizza and Ginger Pop will be running that. So no real shenanigans up here. No Orisa, no Torb, no Symmetra, which I've all seen play on this map at various times. So the double dive defense is good, I think, actually, to counter a dive-ish offense, because you're going to need to wrestle that high ground back.
Well, for Denial right now, they are doing the split high ground defense early on here, and you see Immortals just rolling through the front. Nothing too subtle here. Nomi going to the back, and both teams being a bit tentative, but now you see Immortals coming in a little bit more heavily. They're pushing back Denial, and yet Denial, they're able to rotate back, so it's back and forth, and now Pizza in over the top takes down Athan, and this gives Denial an opportunity to really push this back, but Agilities and Grim also making a case on the double flanker. Very close here so far. Now perhaps going more the way of Immortals.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is Numbani, because of the nature of the map, it's so difficult to be able to take this first point. It's similar to Assault last, but these DPS for the side of Immortals are really trying to stay in here and at least contest on the point. Agilities and Grim have been alive for so long. Agilities will finally go down to a boot, but that is going to buy them the time to get some reinforcements back. This can also be dangerous, where you have that sunken cost fallacy where you think you're going to be in, but now with that kill, they should be able to get back here in time to continue fighting.
Immortals is definitely getting more momentum here on the point. Whether it results in the point being capped as an entire thing entirely, but Immortals, as they get on here, they have position here. Grim is very much in the zone, moving back and forth, finds XQC, so it's a bit of a brawl here from the side of Denial where they have to look for something, but that might be it. Pizza over the top takes down 3 with the barrage.
Barrage went off, self-destruct went off too. They did, I believe, get that tick. Sometimes it's hard to figure out if that is actually the case or not. One of the reasons why you see the DPS staying in here so long is that even if they die late and the reinforcements can come back in, the DPS that they're running in Tracer and Genji are able to get back and reinforce that much quicker. They have the fastest movement speed in the game, they have movement abilities, and Grim also now going to get off of that Tracer, does not like the composition he's seeing. They're going to move over to a 76, and that's largely because Pizza has been somewhat uncontested in the sky, except for the tanks.
Agility's coming out the Dragon Blade, looking for anything on the top, finds Silk Thread with 1 slash, and that's going to be it for the Dragon Blade, but still, 2 kills unanswered by Immortals, make it 3 as Ginger Pop shurikened out of the sky. This is looking far better for Immortals now, X.
So important to be able to take down Ginger Pop there. He was holding on to the resurrection, was going to try to bring people back, but that's not going to be the case now. They might come out and try to contest this. Silka's having notions of getting back on the point. He will touch it, at least momentarily, as XQC also comes on, but eats a very quick nade. They're going to stagger out of this, but that's because they wanted that res. Res comes in.
Rez comes in with the sound barrier. This is not being given up yet by Denial. A very gutsy defense to just stall out, but Dahoon falling immediately. No one looking at Grim in the back as he takes down Pizza, and for Immortals, they have enough presence on the point to cap it and get this moving. So the last moment delay here, not actually delaying for too long. Now for Immortals X, they have a real chance to build momentum, which we know can be very important on Numbani.
Well, this was Immortals' map pick, which is a little bit surprising because, as you mentioned, the last series that we saw them in did not have this map in the pool. So obviously they've been putting some time in on this, as this was a map that I believe was in the pool for Pit. So you'd think that some other teams are a little more practiced on it. But going into this, the higher seed did get the map choice. Immortals did choose this map, and it looks like they don't necessarily have like a specific plan, but they like the composition that they generally run on this map. A lot of verticality and some open spaces here.
And for Immortals, they're still maintaining the momentum here. XQC falling, perhaps diving a little bit too far, as Immortals now cram with a beautiful shot onto Ginger Pop. Takes him out of the fight early, and still uncontested here in the back, as Immortals slowly but surely continues to get progress here.
It's a really good switch from Grim, and it came out early enough. After his first life on Tracer, where they were able to stall out but not quite get the point, they identified the problem very early on. The problem, of course, being Pizza on the Pharah in the sky over the top. They didn't have the greatest answers for it. They were trying to dive on it with the tanks, but also as you get into some of these areas of the map, the tanks aren't going to be able to dive onto the combo as easily. It can hang out in the sky, and Agilities has been a nightmare for Ginger.
It was Ginger Pop getting focused by both Grim and Agilities at the same time. He has been priority number 1, and Immortals has been successfully containing him as Grim piles on the payload. Just consistent soldier tracking to keep things moving forward for Immortals. They get through the streets phase in Numbani very quickly, and now have a lot of artillery to use to get in onto last.
Well, Ginger Pop has to be the prime target yet again. I mean, everyone who plays Mercy knows that's just how it goes. Sometimes you feel a little defenseless because of that. You are the prime target number 1. They want to get rid of that. A big dive in from XQC will get slept, but woken right away. They're going to pop this Visor.
Visor comes out and gets absolutely nothing. Grim just not in the best position for it. Denial piling on with the ultimates that they do have in onto the payload, and they should be able to stabilize here, at least for now. They have a huge number advantage on the cart. No one can really get on the pizza where he's standing, but that was still a very good run for Immortals to get through streets, and they still have a little under 3 minutes left, Hex, to punch this in.
I want to see what hype goes on. He might stay on Diva, but with 3 minutes left, that is enough time to get grabs, and grabs, of course, can win you the fights. He will stay on the Diva in status. Self-destruct can be good on this last point as well. The barrage comes in from an ambitious angle, blocked out and retreated back, but Silk Thread is going to take down Nomi, who had to go back behind that shield. They have switched things up, because Nomi's off the Winston, now onto the Reinhardt for this kind of slower push aspect here. And maybe that's why they're not going directly onto the Zarya either. So Hype going to stay on this. You need to find a different angle of approach, but all the angles have been covered by Denial.
Denial now looking to keep control of this upper room above the archway. Immortals was going to use that as their method of attack as they came in through the arch, but it doesn't quite work out. Denial outflanking a bit here. They get Nomi down immediately, but here comes Agilities into the back. Nanoblade is out. Gets to the start things out, looking for more. Right in Pizza's face, and that's going to take him down. Cut to ribbons.
I mean, that self-destruct over the top gets to pretty quickly as Hype goes down, and Agilities, even with the 4K, unable to get the progress that his team needs. Nomi has died pretty early in these last couple of fights. It's tough to play Reinhardt against some of the compositions we see nowadays. Still going to get in and swing the hammer, but I don't know. It's so back and forth. Agilities getting bullied down by XQC.
Well, here comes the sound barrier out from Denial as, again, they're doing what they need to do to hold on to this. The self-destruct might have bought them some time there, but as reinforcements came in, they're able to flush Immortals right back out. And, Hex, don't forget when we look at Numbani, we've seen teams get stalled out in Numbani last for way longer than just 3 minutes. So for Immortals, they found the last 2 minutes burn away from them, and they really only have 1, maybe 2 attempts left. So for them, they need Grim to have a good tack visor here, and this is why you're probably going to see Grim coming around the flank.
Well, Hype does a better Zarya than me, which is why he's going to switch with 1 minute left and try to still get a Graviton. I think the switch could have come out earlier since everything was not working, and I think his flankers would have much appreciated the allied shield bubbles that he could have provided to them. Grim's going to use a tactical visor only to demech, and Hype does go down. That's going to mean that he's not going to have the time to charge it up. Another huge barrage comes down from Pizza, and he's been about 50% in his barrages, but the ones that he's been hitting have been getting 3K.
Well, what's helping these barrages here is that Immortals has been very split. Half of them are on the flank, half are on the payload, and when you don't have 6 players available to immediately get in on a Pharah when she goes to the barrage, you're more likely to live and actually finish that voice line. So Denial on the verge of holding off Immortals here on last. 10 seconds left remaining. Agilities about to have a Nanoblade, perhaps. Going to need to use it to break this open. Half HP, takes down Pizza midair. Looking for more. Has 2. Will he get the 3rd? Doesn't get the 3rd right away, but the damage has been done here. Immortals now with the last bit of hope to punch this one in, but the res undoing a lot of that work. They have the sound barrier, and it's still working out for them as they counter-engage right back into that res.
I mean, they got a lot, but they didn't get the one they absolutely had to. However, the brawl is continuing. This sound barrier is really nice for Denial as they know they're just into the brawl. That's going to give them a huge advantage as Silk Thread. It is tank season for him. He is hunting down. Nomi and Hyped both go down. That means the rest of it should be easy to clean up. Denial will finally hold at this last bend here. You got to give Ginger Pop credit. He got hunted down all games, stayed on the Mercy, got the clutch res when they needed it most.
The resurrections were certainly on point there, and really for Pizza as well, where he was picking good targets, where even when Immortals was splitting up, he was going, actually, I'm going to go for the people on the back. I think this is a better target. I will get 2-3 kills at my barrage, and we will go from there. So Immortals, even though they threw curveballs at Denial, it didn't quite work out for taking last. Now, let's be clear, teams don't always finish out on the body last to begin with, so Immortals can still bring this back. Flame, what are your thoughts on what we just witnessed?
I can hear you, Flame. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay, Flame, say something now.
Hello?
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. It's like, we've lost Flame.
Okay.
He's gone into the ether.
So the Nomi Reinhardt on last, it probably could have worked out a little bit better. His shatters are actually really good, but again, Ginger Pop just isn't dying, and I think Ethan's getting bullied a little bit harder than he wants to be. I'm starting to wonder, I think, if the Mercy pick is becoming more viable a lot more because of the passive regen. You're not really so reliant on the Lucio anymore to keep yourself alive, as opposed to the Ana, who now, even if you nade the ground to keep yourself up, you won't get the passive regen from the Lucio unless he's literally right on top of you. I think, though, we even saw, like, at the beginning of that first round, Grim and Agilities actually won, like, a 2v5 or a 2v6 or something. They wound up losing the push anyway, but just the individual ability from them was pretty impressive. I think in another time, though, Denial probably could have held that if maybe Ginger Pop hadn't died to the Dragon Blade. But yeah, very clean from Immortals. I think it was just a little bit of compositional errors at the end. I'm surprised they didn't try out the McCree or the Roadhog. I think that they struggled to get through that little gap and at least deal with the Mercy Pharaoh.
I think they should have tried a little different angle too, especially when they had Nomi running the Reinhardts. It seemed like a couple times they toyed with the idea of going through the top upstairs, but that shield can get you through nearly every hallway, and every time that they went through main, they got jumped on behind by Silk Thread, who was just a pain in the back, quite literally, for Nomi.
Well, now getting into this offense coming out here from Denial, they're running the Fair again, and there's no strong hit scan threat on the side of Immortals, so Pizza could very well have the skies to himself. However, XQC dies immediately, doesn't quite have the support needed on the dive. Still, 2-1 in favor of Denial as they move this forward. Pizza, the skies to himself, doesn't have to worry much about threats. Might have a diva in his face, but is able to get away from it. The rocket splashing 3 people. This is going very well here for Denial, and looks to be an incredibly quick take. And Hex, let me just ask you this. Do they need to run the 76 versus Asphera?
Probably. The biggest problem right there, though, was that Agilities died extremely early somehow to a Diva, which shouldn't really be happening to you on the Genji. I mean, that just means he had every one of his cooldowns off, and he's been such a problem for this combination. Maybe not always getting the kills, although he was hunting a lot of Mercies. It just makes them have to spend rockets and spend concussions and use resources, and now they're just hunting down the remainder of these reinforcements. They get every kill they want up front, and this is just a ton of free push.
Well, they kept the momentum going forward, and the other thing too here, Hex, is that we do have an answer to that question. Grim Reality is going to be coming out here on the 76. And for Immortals, this is tough because usually when teams have bigger defenses on second, you see them able to set up pretty aggressively, but the aggression from Denial prevented that entirely. So this defense going to be further back than what Immortals might like here. Here goes Pizza in over the top. The pulse bomb in from Silk Thread takes down 2 effectively, and now Pizza piles on, finds Ethan, and Hex, he might even get to save this barrage.
They've had no answer to Silk Thread at all this game. He has been a terror for the tanks, and this is one of the small weaknesses, perhaps, in the Immortals hero pool, because I think at this point you would actually just want to start running a McCree and a 76, go to that double hit scan, because it's kind of, in theory at least, solves 2 of your problems in the Pharah battle and also Silk Thread. Nomi gonna take care of Silk Thread with an errant charge right there, able to get him down, but Agilities can't necessarily run the McCree, so he'd have to go to 76, and Grim would be on the McCree, so that is one of the small flaws. They don't have a pure double hit scan comp for their hero pool.
Well, here's the problem right now for Immortals more than anything else, is that the yellow box victory is awfully close to that payload, and Denial Esports has 5.5 minutes to bring this in to completion. This is going to be a Herculean defense, even by Nambani standards, if Immortals are somehow able to do this. Again, an early stick on the Nomi, takes him down with the help of Dante. Pizza, over the top once more, holding onto the barrage. The self-destruct takes down Hyped, and now the barrage comes out late. Gets in on the Agilities, the hook not in time, and Denial just a few short kills away from finishing out would be a very decisive Nambani victory. And Hex, this yellow box victory is going to be reached.
Resurrection there brought him back. I mean, the supports have been on point for Denial right now. I mean, Ginger Pop again, for as prioritized as he was early on to be able to get the resurrections they needed. Sound Barrier came in at the right time. It was essentially a victory Sound Barrier that they were needed earlier, and it was all over for the Crying. They just absolutely stomped him. No answers to the sky, no answers to the ground, and as good as agilities in Grim are, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to... They needed to play 5 times better than the opposing DPS, and they just didn't.
I wasn't sold on the Reinhardt pick from Nomi. I think that was probably the biggest problem that they had. They were running this tank hero, but Silk Thread just kept pulse bombing him for free, and there was no Zarya bubble. There was no real counterplay for him other than maybe the D.Va eating it. That's obviously a little over the top. I mean, that was pretty clean as far as the now goes. They won the first push. They won the second push. They didn't even really give Immortals enough time to build ults. I don't even think Ethan got a single nano boost off that entire game. So that just goes to show how much pressure he was under. I think that they might have put themselves in a bad spot just picking that map. Again, I do think that was a Denial favored map. I don't think you want to go to a map where a Pharah, D.Va, Winston can succeed. I think you definitely want to try something more close quarters, something where Grimm's McCree can come out, where Agility's hooks can come out on the Roadhog. But I'm not surprised with how that went. I'm impressed though with how clean it was from Denial, but I do think that they're gonna have to get rid of that Reinhardt if they do want some form of counterplay.
Flame, let's dive a little bit deeper onto this in terms of map picks here, where let's go back to the theory that Immortals maybe hasn't had as much experience on the Bonnie because of recent tournaments have played in. If you're a Denial and you lose the next map, whatever Immortals might bring you on, do you go to a map that perhaps wasn't played in the Carbon series to try to catch them off guard if you think that you could play that well? Because the one thing about Immortals, where maybe this is a bit of speculation, but it does feel like Immortals does well based on their heavy amounts of preparation. They're a very well-coached, well-run org, but I wonder if that means there's more blind spots here where they do really well in the things that they've practiced, and perhaps they might not be as good at things that they haven't had as much time on recently.
Well, I think the thing is that the map pool, especially for this tournament, is pretty good for what Denial is running. I think it's more on Immortals to figure out what needs to change, more so than Denial as far as how to clean it out. There's not that many maps. I'm looking at the map pool. There's Kings Row. There's a couple control maps, some Assault, but there's Dorado, Hollywood, Eichenwald, and Kings Row, Gibraltar. I think the most you could probably get away with, maybe that would work in Immortals' favor, maybe Gibraltar would be one of their picks. You need something where you can run hit scan successfully, and I think Gibraltar is probably one of the better maps for that. But back to the point of like Eichenwald, Hollywood, all these maps where you can definitely get away with the Pharah, you can definitely get away with the D.Va Winston. But I don't know how much it's a meta swap. I mean, you didn't see anyone from Selfless or Eastwind running this Mercy combo yesterday. And I do think that Denial has been catching a lot of teams off guard with just how good Ginger Pop is playing. I mean, they even almost won an Assault map against Rogue yesterday with the Mercy Res. So I'm not sure what the counterplay is. Maybe Ethan should start trying out Mercy. Or I don't think that they have a Pharah, though, that can compete with Pizza. So it's really a lot of pressure, I think, on Immortals to find maps and or change their game plan a little bit to deal more specifically with the Pharah Mercy combo.
I tend to agree. They definitely don't have the Pharah at the level of Pizza. They just don't. And Hyped has been trying to play it. I think Agilities has had good maps on Pharah. The little we've seen out of it, Oasis comes to mind on maps that he's played Pharah on, and it's looked pretty good. So they might have to switch that up. But I also do think maybe Agilities can run a 76. Maybe Hyped can run a 76. Maybe Hyped goes over to a Tracer. But I think they really double hit scan would have worked out better there, especially if they were going to continue to run that Reinhardt. And I don't know why you continue to run Reinhardt after their offense got crushed with the Reinhardt. And it was all because Silk Thread was prioritizing him. You see Reinhardt eat more pulse bombs than any other heroes nowadays. But maybe if you put a McCree back there with the Reinhardt, it makes the Tracer think twice. Whatever they were trying to do wasn't working. And there are a little bit of holes as far as the optimal compositions that this Immortal team can run.
Yeah, I want to see them maybe try like a Mercy McCree or something crazy with a D.Va on. I don't know if Nomi can run D.Va. I would hope he can run D.Va. But I think you could definitely get away with that. But even here, you're seeing them. They're going to pick Nepal, probably one of the harder maps, at least some of the stages for a Pharah to get away with. I think the hit scan can definitely run, and I'm sure that they're going to try to pull out that Orisa comp on Village. So maybe trying to catch Denial off guard a little bit, as I do remember them. I don't know if it was a scrim or what, but I have memories of the Orisa versus Denial, and it did work out for them, or for the opposing team rather.
I would definitely love to see more Orisa in play if a team would go for it. And I mean, it's Nepal, so at least on the Sanctum stage, there is a case to be made for using it more often than not. So right now, we are just waiting for the teams. Nepal will be the next map, and once the teams are ready, we'll just get in. Any final thoughts here on what can we expect going into Nepal?
I mean, I hope Immortals has a plan. They picked the map, right? So they have to have some reason for picking it. I think that they're a little shook by that Pharah Mercy combo. I'm more concerned with Nomi's picks. I think Nomi is going to have to be the one that steps it up here, because obviously playing Reinhardt into a Silk Thread Tracer was not working out. Even the Pharah, you have to deal with so much. The rockets from above, the pulse bombs from the front. It's just really overwhelming. And if his hero selection isn't diverse enough for them to rely on him swapping correctly, then I think that they might get caught with their pants down and just quick 3-0'd here.
Well, we are moving on to Nepal, so it is possible. This is a map that, oddly enough, Immortals has toyed with the idea of running their own Pharah Mercy combination on. It would be Hyped and Aethan taking to the skies if absolutely necessary. Right now, though, it doesn't look like that is going to be what they're going to queue up on. Hyped is going to run the D.Va instead. You can run tank heavy on this map and shut down a Pharah Mercy combo if everyone is sitting in the right spots here, and they're going to do just that. Hyped and Nomi are going to be kind of boxing out Pizza in the skies. At least that is the intention.
I see what you did there. Well, this is going to be the Shrine stage that we start out on, and this is a stage that is a little bit more friendly to a Pharah. We'll see if this strategy that Immortals is coming out with will work. We have seen this work against Pharahs in the past, so you think back to how teams handled Renegades back in the Carbon series, where they would run a D.Va in the tight areas of the Shrine, and that actually was able to contain it a bit. So I would imagine Immortals would come in with that in mind. We'll see if it's effective, as Denial has had more creative ways of engaging than perhaps we saw out of Renegades.
Well, that's how Complexity dealt with Renegades, and Complexity notoriously has struggled with the Pharah Mercy combo. They just ran 4 tanks into it and decided, we're just not going to let you get the critical damage you need.
Pizza right now leading the way, and oh, is that a huge boop, or is that a huge boop? Dahoon with 3! Climbing the mountains, Nepal is what they're doing right now, but they are out of the fight, and that's going to be Denial taking this with authority. Wow.
That's just an incredible, I want to say, misstep by the side of Immortals, because you know how good boops are nowadays. To just roll your entire team over there near a ledge like that, I don't know why you take that first fight on that angle. I guess it's an okay angle to try to shut down a Pharah Mercy combo, but I think they learned their lesson. They're going to rotate through the other side now.
Well, now that Dahoon has safely secured play of the game, Denial now wants to secure this point and this round, as Immortals getting caught in a bit of a corner here, flanked in on all sides. Pizza looking for the support pickoff, doesn't get it just yet, but Verbo will fall. 2 kills to 1 in favor of Denial now, and they have the barrage in reserve as a trump card if Pizza can get over a squishy target, but it's not going to be needed as he just takes down D.Va for free. And the fadeaway rocket just for good measure. My goodness.
Oh, that chase down rocket was, Grim Reality was trying to sprint off the edge, and he just got an express ticket from Pizza right there. Anyway, they are going to sound barrier down here all alone. Dahoon does keep himself and XQC alive because of it. Now XQC is going to pop his own Primal Rage, and they're both going to get out despite an ult coming out from Agility. So some nice play there from Denial, using ults just to keep themselves healthy at 6.
Denial has been playing the Ulticami game very well. They've been playing positioning very well. And Pizza really has been stopped as Silk Thread picks off 2. Special delivery to Nomi and Verbo there. Very likely has sealed this fight for Denial. So everything working well for Denial. They're getting great ground and pound from Silk Thread. They're getting aerial dominance from Pizza. And you're seeing very smart tank play come out of players like Dante and XQC. There's very little that you can criticize here for how Denial is playing this.
They're going to switch up at the last second, just try to get Grim back on the point here so someone can touch it. Ginger Pop is hiding in the corner, so even if they get a ton of kills here, the res will come out.
And now this is do or die. They have to keep this in overtime. That's why Grim, now on the Tracer, has to stay on the point and dart around, hoping that the rest of his team can get in there and give him a bit of help. It's Grim and Nomi on the point. Not very healthy here in the least. Pizza, lots of room to take them out. Finds Nomi early on. XQC, now they're at the fall through, able to cleave people off the point, and that's going to be 4 unanswered kills for Denial Hex, and what could be a very decisive round now to start things out.
I mean, Dahoon set the tone early on with the triple boop off of the edge, and just no answers. And again, Nomi, he's going to have to turn his back on Silk Thread at some point in time. Every time he does, they just stick a pulse bomb on him. It's one of the easiest targets to hit as a pulse bomb. And then oftentimes, Verbo's hanging out with them, and he gets a double kill off it extremely easily.
He's becoming a liability, I mean, to say the least. You're going to see even now Hyped is going to switch to the Zarya. I think that this is a problem with Nomi's, though, not so much the rest of the team. I mean, even aside from the boop at the beginning with the 3K, every single fight opened up with more or less him getting pulse bombed by Silk Thread. Because Silk Thread knows it's just a free kill. There's really nothing they can do about it. Even Ana now isn't so great against the pulse bomb because of the nade, and I think even Dante was there with the defense matrix to make sure that Ana couldn't heal him up anyway. So they're just abusing the fact that they're picking this Reinhardt into them, and I think that that's the biggest problem that Immortals have, because once you lose one of your tanks, it's 5v6 against the Pharah, and suddenly it just feels unwinnable.
This is a map that Reinhardt can be better on because shield battles, but if the other team just decides not to take the shield battle, then the Reinhardt's just over there holding a shield with no great reason. A rotation around from both teams as they'll switch sides.
Both teams playing a ring around the rosy right now, trying to find each other, but neither really engaging too heavily here. However, Denial does have the option of going for it. That was an ambitious sleep dart by Ethan. Would have been great if it hit, but Ginger Pop going to be first to fall here early on as Dahoon gets another key boop, evening things up for Denial. However, Agility's now getting a little bit deeper in, finds Silk Thread, and slight edge to Immortals here perhaps, but it's pretty close overall to start things out. But with Grim taking Pizza out of the sky, this should now be Immortals' point.
It's a very important first kill for them, or first take for them as well, because now Grim is going to have all the room he needs to operate on whatever angle he wants. It becomes much more difficult for the combo to be able to come in on him, as they're going to hold far forward right now, but if things start going bad, Grim's just going to use the natural geography of this map to put space between him and the combination, and that's exactly what they start doing immediately. Use those shields, get back, take the angle that you want from winning first point.
Well, for Immortals, they are going to keep this position on the stairs, and Grim backs out pretty heavily here, comes back in, now looking for Pizza, was out of that fight to start things out, was very afraid of getting dove on, and yet Immortals, the front line, deals with it pretty well. They trade out 2-1 early on, and now Grim is going to use attack visor to fish this out. I don't know if it was really necessary here. He gets very little from it. Does zone them out, I suppose, to start things out, but I think he could have saved it.
Everything's starting to feel necessary for Immortals, though, especially just how badly they got bodied on the first stage of this map, and how Numbani, which was also their pick, didn't go well for them. So you're not leaving anything up to chance right now. So that is a pretty decent entry kill from Pizza, going to really nerf the healing of this Immortals team.
And for Immortals right now, they're not really getting away from this right staircase. They're using it as a staging point. Grim in the back, trying to keep as much space as possible. Laying damage in the Ginger Pop, but not able to finish as Pizza in on the side, takes down 2 at that barrage, and suddenly for Denial, they're piercing through. Now they're able to put Grim under pressure, and they get full control of the point.
Nerfshutter did come down from Nomi, but it was immediately resurrected afterwards when they were able to finally get a couple. Hyped is going to have Graviton, and they're going to want to try to hit something here, have to be a little bit careful, but Dante has been trying to patrol here mostly to try to take down some of the front tanks here. Can't be throwing away this grab, though. Need a big one here.
Hyped holding on to the grab, doesn't want to give it to the Diva. Of course, that's something that Zarya's gotten very good about not doing, and he does land the grab despite the Matrix in his face. Doesn't get as many people into it as he might want, but it's still 2 kills here for Immortals. 4 versus 4 on this point. This is not the worst for Denial, though, in the sense that even if they lose this, they're going to be able to delay this out for a decent amount of time. Still going to leave them with 1 fight left to retake if they don't actually win.
Wow, Silk Thread on Nomi again, and he is going to pulse bomb himself, apparently, out of some sort of Sudoku pack right there, and that is the supports for Denial coming in just to stall out, but they will get cleaned up in short order. Meanwhile, though, it has still been in favor of Denial here as the cleanup hasn't been there. XQZ is going to come back in to try to delay it even a little bit more. Finally will flip back over, well, not quite yet. Dante comes back in. Silk Thread now back alive, but he's eliminated in short order, but this has been great stall for them. They only need 1 more fight after this.
Well, the good thing about the stall is that they made Grim use his tac visor. That fight was almost already won, and Grim felt the need to use tac visor just to finish it out. So for Denial, they get rid of a key ultimate and now put themselves in the best possible position to win the retake here. Next fight will be determining the outcome of this round. Denial now holding on to Pizza, has the barrage up and ready. We'll see just how he engages us, but he's going to concussive blast in over the top. Barrage is coming down, gets agilities immediately, doesn't get hooked. 2 unanswered kills here by Denial Hex, and they're piling on as Verbo is running for his life.
Yeah, just a really clean take. They're using one of their support ults to initiate and make sure that you keep Pizza alive. If someone else goes down now, they are going to be able to resurrect it as Ginger Pop holding on to this in the back line. They don't necessarily want to bring up one with XQC, but now Silk Thread died late. They put themselves in a 6v4 position. Need to back off at the moment and wait for people to come in, and then they can perhaps sacrifice, but it's going to be difficult for them even with the resurrection ready.
Well, the good thing for Immortals is that they had just enough time to get back onto the point. They're dumping ultimates into it, and they take the beginning of this 4-1, but the resurrection comes in. Fall through with the Graviton, trying to put all those freshly resurrected people back into the grave, and it works out. Agilities is there at the fall through, and Immortals, off of the slimmest of time margins, takes that final fight and takes the round.
I'm wondering if they should have rezzed XQC solo there, because one of the big problems with getting 5-man rezzes on the point like that is, yes, you're invulnerable, and yes, your team does have that invulnerability, but the rest of the team just starts licking their lips. They see exactly where you're going to come up, and you just call out which single ult you're going to use. In that case, it was Graviton. And XQC died early in that fight, but he has been so important as far as blocking entry and making them all think twice about coming in. And that wasn't necessarily the problem, because you can just wait for that. But then Silk Thread died, and it was too late to make the decision. You couldn't bring them both up at once. The rest of the team dying in ways that made the Mercy's job much more difficult there.
Yeah, I definitely think that was them getting a little too excited again. XQC and Silk Thread had no reason to die, actually. XQC jumped in to chase Grim Reality, but Grim Reality hit him with a few headshots, and I think Silk Thread wanted to go for the Vengeance kill, but he wound up feeding too, so then there was really nothing that the Ginger Pop could have done. I think maybe if in another world they had both lived, that was a really easy round for Denial. That said, though, that was the map that Denial was supposed to lose, I think, if you're Immortals. If Immortals had lost that, I think this would have been a 3-0. This is going to be another test for Immortals, I think.
Ginger Pop was under heavy pressure there by Grim, was able to get away from it at the very end, so Grim not succeeding in that Mercy assassination, which gives Denial more of a chance of bringing this fight back. Still, though, relatively even. Pizza finds Grim early on. That's going to open the skies up for him. And Denial, they get control of the point, even as Immortal still has people in and around.
It's a weird place to want to fight from Immortals. They all rolled into this one room on the side, and it's got 2 small doors that can just be peppered through with rockets, which is exactly what they did. They found 3 tanks in there that were just stuck in there for the remainder of the fight. They could not break out, and you don't want to fight in rooms like that. Akin to fighting in a basement. Not a good idea.
Well, for Denial, they have firm control of the point, 25% to their name here. And Pizza very close to getting a barrage, so they have multiple ways of engaging this. As Immortals, you take a look how they're setting up. They're going to be coming in up the gut with the most of their players here. And here comes Pizza. Just drops right down, drops the barrage, and removes Athan from the game. It's a good initiation that catches Immortals off guard.
2 people are rotating through this right side. That's Verbo and Nomi. They've been attached at the hip trying to stick together. They found themselves in a rough spot in the room, and yet again, Silk Thread takes down Nomi. It's so difficult in the current meta to run a Reinhardt against a Tracer like this, and Silk Thread's proving exactly why.
Silk Thread has been great because as much as we've been looking at Pizza and his impact on the game, Silk Thread has been reliably landing sticks that result in first kills going away of Denial and win fight. But here comes Hyped. Graviton is up, looking for a way to set this up. Not great targets early on, but does use that on the Winston with an Earth Shatter. There's a little bit of overkill ult-wise, I suppose, but there's the res! They're not able to stop Ginger Pop, and Denial perhaps can come back into this. Not the greatest positioning for the res, though.
Well, the nice hook does come down, and that's going to ground Pizza, at least for the moment. They're throwing more ults in after this because Immortals needs to win this fight and take it back. 87%. They still haven't been able to wrestle away control at this point. Now the boost is going to go down. Nomi's got to feel good that he's able to at least take down Ginger Pop. Delay still coming out. Another Earth Shatter from Nomi as he is just playing angry right now, and why wouldn't you be? It's been a frustrating set for him so far. They're coming back in late on this because everyone was so low that they're just going to put people back on the point. The Destruct's going to zone out. They flip it back immediately.
Immortals was not able to maintain control there. What you saw from Dials after the res, they actually spread out and just staggered it back in, and then they waited for Silk Thread to get pickoff, and they really all committed after that. So for Denial, they're playing very smart in how they're engaging and re-engaging, and it's been keeping Immortals on the back foot. And you just look at Silk Thread right now, cleanup after cleanup. No one doing anything to stop him here. Does finally fall to Agilities, who is on the Tracer now, but my goodness, what a run for Denial.
This might be the composition that they have to run against Denial, and maybe they finally cracked it. Agilities, we don't see him very often on the Tracer, but a very capable player, but you need to have someone who can deal with Silk and someone who can present a threat from Pizza. That's why Grim is on the 76, a little bit better at the hit scan. We do generally think of Grim as their main hit scan player, but on the ground, you need to start at least putting pressure on Silk because no one's been able to keep up with him.
Barrage in from Pizza in at the room here. Gonna use most of it to crack Nomi's shield, and does result in Nomi going down. Denial focusing heavily on the point. You see Grim here at the late nano boost. Doesn't have a tactical visor to go with it, trying to pull it back, but it was just Grim versus very heavy odds as Denial just flooding the point with tanks. And XQC gonna take a leap of victory towards the very end.
What do you think, Flame? What does Immortals have to run to be able to beat this pretty standard composition that Denial's running? I mean, this is what Denial always runs, and it seems to have caught Immortals off guard.
I think Nomi needs to play Diva. I think you keep hyped on the Zarya. Hype's doing a lot of work. I'm just not sold on Athan right now, too, even on the Ana. I think the Ana's getting bullied so hard by the Winston, Tracer, and the Diva. I think maybe you want to try for your own Pharah, or your own Mercy at least. Grim 76 is good, but it's really hard to burst down all these tanky heroes with just the 76. Like, he has to go up against Pizza on the Pharah, who has Mercy heals. He has Tracer with Rewind, Dante with the Matrix, and then even XQC as the Winston with a lot of HP. So I kind of want to see them try the McCree Mercy. I mean, obviously it's out of season, but I think you have to try something a little bit crazier here because Nomi is getting bullied really hard.
Well, we head back into the Sanctum again as you take a look at how Denial is playing this. They're still running with a heavy dive setup. They lose Agilities immediately on the side of Immortals, and now XQC, it's open season for him to dive to the back. Doesn't have to worry about the Roadhog being in his face as a Winston, and it's going to cause Immortals to give up key positioning on the interior of the battlefield.
They're just going to rotate onto the point and make Immortals come to them. They don't necessarily have all the best of damage dealing from a distance. They're just going to get that cap for absolute free and bail out of there. Nomi with a very aggressive charge is going to get a bubble, which will keep him alive, at least momentarily. Agility is going to come back in and help him out, so XQC's got to think better of it and get out. But so much cleave. The barrage over top.
Takes down Nomi. Pizza hungry for more right now. XQC actually finding Agilities in the back as Denial so aggressive, able to punish Immortals as soon as they get an early pickoff. And it's been scary to watch here as Pizza should be able to help clean this out, though XQC a little bit too far deep. Suddenly, Denial has to use a resurrection and perhaps not the most ideal of circumstances.
Well,
here comes
exactly
Grim.
what happened.
Nanovisor out. He's coming in, and now with XQC going down, there is an opportunity for Immortals to bring this back.
Well, those are exactly the two people who died last time on this stage that ended up losing them the map. XQC and Silk Thread just a little too aggressive, not knowing when to pull back, so that means that Ginger Pop had to burn the res to bring them back up, but the cleanup is there now as Grim comes alive, gets a couple headshots. Almost a full team kill for the side of Immortals as they will take control of this point. They have to win this stage. I mean, this is the stage they've looked best on, most competent on. And, well, obviously they have to win it because they're down 2-1 and almost going to get knocked down to the lower bracket here as we kick off our day.
There's many reasons why they have to win the stage here, Hex, but
right.
not least of all is math. The math simply demands it. Earthshower coming in from Nomi takes Verbo out of the fight early on, Tahun out of the fight early on, but Immortals able to get the fall through that they're looking for here, ends up with 4 kills, and they will keep Denial off. So this is some badly needed stabilization here from Immortals where they win the next fight, they'll be evened up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the chat was laughing at there. We had some of the players looking back and forth. Something happened there, I think, maybe a little glitchy-wise. I thought it was funny that Nomi ended up kind of solo shattering XQC, but so Nomi has definitely been playing a little bit better. They've been able to stay closer with him. Now, exactly what happens there, they boop him out. He's going to have to charge back towards his team. That means the shield is down, and Tahun's going to take out Agilities on the bridge.
Pizza gonna get slapped in the middle of it, but it doesn't matter. The ground war very well run, with Silk Thread and XQC diving into the back, getting the early kills that are necessary, and now for Immortals, this is already a bit on the hot seat where they have maybe at most 2 fights left to turn this around, Hex, and they're gonna have to do it into a relatively well-stocked defense here in terms of support ultimates.
I think Ginger should be aiming for a tempo res here at some point. The 5-man res is not necessarily going to work against this team that has big CC ultimates. That is an aggressive ult from Agilities on the right side, going to mostly get eaten up by the defense matrix. Meanwhile, though, Grim has taken down both supports.
It was a very good flank coming in from Grim, got the targets that were necessary, and it just flushes Denial off the point with ease. Now for Immortals, though, it is hard mode that will be engaged because they have to win the next 2 fights. If they lose any of the fights, they're very likely going to be out of the round, and they're not going to have a tactical visor up, at least for the next one, so there is an opportunity for Denial to get a good engage here, follow through with the res to bring up the Fallen, and take the fight outright. Earthshatter comes in early from Nomi, doesn't quite get as much as he wants. XQC, though, falls to fall through charge, but look at this. The Resurrection still up, and Nomi might be having the time of his life, but everyone he just killed is going to be brought right back into the fray.
Well, Grim is on the point, trying to get a lot of damage, and XQC is going to go down there and defend both of his supports. A pulse bomb goes off and uncharacteristically does not end up killing Nomi there, surprisingly so. XQC is going to get the jump kill onto Verbo, so very back and forth, but now they have to keep constant pressure on the point. Does not. Here comes the Primal Rage to do just that.
Primal Rage comes in, hyped, holding on to the Graviton. Immortals in a very good position now to take this fight outright. But Pizza, a late barrage, taking down 2. Don't know if it's going to be enough, though, as Dante, one of the last few members on the point. It's up to him to delay, wait for other members to get on. Silk Thread has joined him, but it's still a very uneven number situation for Denial, as they're on a hope and a prayer. And with the Tac Visor being popped by Grim, those hopes and prayers will not be answered.
Tech visors were really good there for Graham, and you mentioned earlier Nomi not getting exactly what he wants from Meteor Shredder. I think he got exactly what he wants. He is tired of holding on to it and just waiting, doesn't want to die with it. He's been solo ulting them every time they come around the corner. If you happen to be in that area, you're going to get Earth Shattered by Nomi, and he's adjusted his play a little bit, at least, after Silk has just been beating up on him. So knowing that he has to use Earth Shatter every time he has it so that he doesn't just die with it again.
And one of the things I want to point out too is that, I mean, one of the old counters to res was just don't kill them all. And I think that they started to figure that out as the time went on. You saw that shatter that you mentioned against Nomi, or from Nomi, that got on XQC. They actually tried really hard not to kill anyone else after that. I think they tried to stagger him as much as possible, and it actually wound up working for them because then they had the solo res XQC, and I think a Baby Diva died immediately after as opposed to being part of the res. So maybe they're adjusting their playstyle. I do think it's a gift, though, that they did get Village for a second time as opposed to Shrine, because this match could have been a little bit cleaner, I think, if they didn't have such a bad start.
Well, the start again is them rotating through this right side, but they don't go into the terrible room of death, which it was before. They're just going to put pressure on the point.
Pizza right now rotating around, looking for squishy targets, getting get stymied a bit by the Reinhardt shield, so it's a decent rotation from Immortals to somewhat mitigate the rotation by Denial, where now their tank frontline is reestablished, forces Denial back to their backline, as you see Pizza looking for Grim, and he takes him down with 2 rockets. So despite the rotation game that's going on here, Denial coming a little bit, perhaps, I would say ahead, but even though they get some key kills, they're not able to get in on the point, and results in Immortals with the first cap.
Silk Thread finds another tank. He has not found a tank. He did not want to pulse bomb today as Agilities goes down, and the reason you're seeing all these pulse bombs is that they've been running triple tank for the last 3 maps. Those are huge batteries for Tracer to be able to charge up her ult, and after that pulse bomb goes off, Agilities is down. That means Silk has no real threat on him. The rest of his team comes in, and they're going to get some cleanup.
Late barrage there by Pizza, just to be sure and killing Hyped. Not really sure if it was necessary. But you look at the rest of this for Denial, they did give up the point early on, Hex, but it was still a fight they were winning. It's just they didn't prioritize things early on. They gave Pizza time to move around the back, and for Denial, I think they were okay with that early trade.
Sometimes the barrage is about sending a message, ZP, and sometimes you do just want to hear the end of the voice line. I still don't even know what she says. I know that Justice is involved in that ultimate, but that's about it.
Immortals right now, they do have a Graviton charge up, but Pizza takes down 2 immediately off the flank. Hype throws the Graviton in, trying to have Grim bring it back, and he takes down 3. It might not be wasted, but the Resurrection coming in, going to undo the damage that the Graviton did with the aid of Grim, and that's going to be Denial holding on.
Dante got some damage onto Agilities with the mech call down. You don't often see that in pro level games, but Dante, perhaps one of the most unsung heroes of this team, has played so well today that it's not generally these giant hero moments, but he's everywhere. He's Johnny on the spot to protect his team. He's able to do the damage. He's able to get in there late on cleanups, and he's really been able to shut down some of the great DPS that are on this Immortals team.
Dante getting hooked in early here by Agilities, but is going to be separating two of the tanks from Immortals off in this fight. Meanwhile, XQC and Silk Thread take out the people who dove in first. You see Immortals get completely split off in this fight, and they pay a heavy price. Hex, one fight potentially remaining here for Immortals, and they have a lot of ultimates up to do it. What do they need to do to win this and then win the fight after?
You got to hope that this Tac Visor gets there and finds the targets that you need, especially Ginger Pop right now. You can solo ult either part of the combo right now to try to get in. Agility's trying to get some pressure. Both sound barriers go off, but right now Denial with the better part of it. Silk takes down Grim, and that attack Visor going to get nothing.
That is one way you stop a visoring soldier. Ginger Pop gonna use the res, bring Denial back up to full strength here in the point. Immortals scattered and staggered right now. Now they have to look for the miracle to bring this back. If they lose this fight, the map is over. Pizza cleaning up on the point. And Hex, this is looking like Denial will have sent Immortals to the lower bracket. Overtime ticks down, and that is in fact going to be the case. A bit of a shocker here as Immortals taken down by Denial.
I'll let Flame give us his thoughts in a second, but I think there's a lot of things this Denial team did which are poking some holes in the hero pool of Immortals. The fact Ethan never went to Mercy, and you know what? I almost never see Ethan play anything except for Ana. He's a very good Ana, but that's it. The fact that they can't necessarily run the great double hit scan they want. There are some holes in the hero pool.
Yeah, I mean, we do see Nomi leave the server immediately, and I'm not really too shocked. Like, he had a rough game, and I don't know. I think he needs to get off that Reinhardt. I think that you can tell, too, that Immortals isn't really used to running against that Mercy. I don't even know how good it is for them to be throwing Gravitons out without that Mercy being dead, because they're investing a lot of ults into these fights that are getting, like, to say the least, just dealt with and undone. If you're going to pop an Earthshatter and a Graviton on Village in the second round, you can't just do that with a Mercy res. It's completely not worth it. I think maybe you go back to the drawing board there. You need a Tracer, I think. I think they need their own Tracer. Grim should just play the Tracer, I think. But I'm not sure who's going to play the McCree or the 76 at that point. I think Agility's tried the Tracer for a little bit, but he wouldn't do it. He didn't stay on it, which is surprising. Because you do need a defensive Tracer to deal with Silk Thread. I think that we saw that even in like Apex finals. You just run a defensive Tracer. You just pocket your Ana the entire game and make sure that Silk Thread doesn't have a good game. As long as you're not dying to Silk Thread or your teammates aren't dying to Silk Thread, you can win. I mean, it's kind of that simple, but you do still need somebody to deal with this Mercy Pharah. And Nomi on the Reinhardt's just standing there tanking damage for hype to be getting Gravitons, but I mean, even at the end there is Gravitons where it's super, super impressive because, again, the res comes out. And if that Mercy's not dead, then what's the point of throwing out a Grav? It's kind of a lose-lose for Immortals. I will say I think that the Denial Kryptonite was probably real, and I do think that Immortals probably had better maps that they could have picked that weren't the ones that they did pick. I think King's Row would have been a better option for them. I think maybe even some Gibraltar would have been a better option for them. But taking it to a skirmishy map and just skirmishy maps in general, I think is going to lose you against Denial, at least currently with their composition and how well they're playing it.
Well, the interesting thing to me, too, is that for Immortals, usually they have other game plans they could go to there, but it felt like the double threat between what we were seeing from Pizza and Silk Thread was a little bit too much, because we've seen lots of incarnations of Pharah Tracer. There's no doubt about it in Overwatch, where perhaps one part of it is stronger than the other, but in this case, it seemed like if Pizza was having an off engagement, you would see Silk Thread come in and get 2 to 3 kills. Conversely, if Silk Thread was having a rough engage, Pizza was able to carry the slack, and overall, you also had very comprehensive tank play coming out from XQC and isolating supports in the back and being a huge problem, where you didn't really see XQC die early in any of these fights.
I mean, that's the strength of the Winston, too. I mean, you just have to exist. Your existence as Winston is really, really impactful when it comes to control maps. I mean, as long as you get the Primal Rage off to stall off the point for a few percentage, it's value. And he didn't have anything really to pressure him. Like a Reinhardt swinging at him, he can always get away. The 76 damage you can jump out of. The bubble cooldown change is actually so huge for the Winston, too, because it just allows so much more uptime for his abilities. I think that comp, I don't want to say it's perfect, but there's a lot of merit to it, the Denial comp that they've been running. I think it's incredibly strong because it does force you to want to go double hit scan, but then suddenly you're running double hit scan into a Mercy Pharah, and it's into a Diva Winston rather, and it's hard to pull that off, I think. I want to see teams go outside the box. I don't know how good it's going to work for Denial going later into the stages, as I think they'll eventually have to meet up with Rogue, as Rogue is definitely one of, if not the best teams in North America right now. But there's not much else you can do. I think that teams are running, but I do think that I would like for teams to try something outside the box against Denial.
All right, well, we're going to be going to a short break. When we come back, we will be getting to our other upper bracket matchup in Rogue versus Eastwind. Eastwind, of course, another up-and-coming competitor that got their way through the qualifiers in an impressive fashion. So when we come back, that will be our next match. This is the Overwatch Monthly Melee powered by Alienware, and we'll be right back.